Welcome to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast, featuring in-depth interviews with people in hip-hop culture, based out of New England. Leeds. So we're good.
Yeah, let's get it.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Life is great. No complaints. Staying super busy. Just feeling all the love from the album. The feedback's been just overwhelming in the best possible way. Like, actually stuck to my phone, but loving it this time. Not like, oh no, let me get back to reality. Like, oh wow, okay, this is all good, important, and just good energy.
I'm trying to think. Have we met before?
Dude, I was trying to think that too because I don't think we technically have. Like, we DM'd and hit each other up, and like, shout out to you for including me on the playlist a bunch of times and stuff. And we have a few similarities. And just I used to go to the shows that you threw like way back in the day. You know what I mean? I think even one that you threw, you were working with Stu Cat for a while, and I was his DJ, and we opened up for the Ghetto Boys. This is like way long time ago. So, I appreciate you. I thank you. You worked super hard for New England, Boston. Like, it's an honor to be here just in that sense. You know what I mean? Because just coming into this, not like growing up and seeing them, but like growing into getting into the scene and making my way down to Cambridge and going to the Middle East and all of that. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and thank you. I had no idea you were Stu Cat's DJ at one point.
Yeah. So this is like I was going by DJ Nefarious at the time. And this is pre New York. I was living in Manchester, New Hampshire. And
Vegas.
Man's Vegas. And yeah, we were doing a lot of work together. So he had a couple shows I did, and he reached out to me with that one. It was wild too. He had a limo, like an old school limo, pick me up in Manch and then drive me and my boy Vazy to the Middle East. It was wild.
Yeah. And you did that Ghetto Boy show was one of my favorite shows of all time.
Bro, that was an insane show.
Yeah.
Like, that was like an emotional state for people. You know what I mean? I think around the same time you had P-Rock and CL Smooth. It was like the same year, maybe even like same 6 months. And that was like, I was watching 45-year-old men just bawl their eyes out. Like, that night was crazy. I had P-Rock sign a floppy disk and everything. And then it might have been the same year too. It was like Czarface, the first Czarface show ever.
Yep.
So
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think that's like around 2012 or 13.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I just posted about it the other day because it was like, it was the anniversary of that show, the Czarface show. I had all these pics and stuff. And,
bro, who would have thought?
Those are legendary shows.
From that night with Czarface, like what would come from that? You know what I mean? It's nuts.
Yeah. I wouldn't have expected that. I mean, I figured they were gonna do this project and then call it a day,
or
maybe do another one, but like this wouldn't be like the new 7L Esoteric brand, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Because it got to a point where I was like, a few years of them doing Scarface, I was like, well, does 7L Esoteric want to open up for this, for this particular show? There was a little smaller as a support, it wasn't like a headline thing. And so it was like, we're not doing any more 7L and Esoteric. We're strictly doing Czarface.
Yeah. I mean, these dudes
wow.
are so smart. Yeah, right? Like, whoa, there was like a whole, like they've been around for a while doing that. They were staple in Boston and just New England. And then now they're this, you know what I mean? It was really cool to watch that whole thing kind of unfold.
Yeah, going back to the Ghetto Boys, that show was like bucket list, obviously, for sure. When that came across my plate, it was like this opportunity to do that show. It was like I had to do it. It was a lot of money too. It was risky, but I was like, dude,
I'm sure. Yeah, because that wasn't a small thing.
I'm like, I'm gonna regret this if I don't do this. And it was everything you want and more from the show. And they were all cool. And if you remember the night, Bushwick and his backpack and
it was nuts. They were like on speakers and everything. Yeah. Oh, that's right. I remember
Yeah.
getting on like this top of the speakers, and it's like, whoa, oh, yeah, it was dope. It was dope. It was wild.
Yeah. Just real quick, do you get a little glitch in you on your
Mhm.
end?
I
You
do
moving?
not.
All right.
I'm good on
Okay.
my end.
All right. It just glitched. So maybe it's just a technical difficulty. Hopefully, if it does it again, I'll catch it. But no
Okay, yeah,
big
yeah,
deal.
yeah. Cool,
We're
cool.
good. But yeah, I mean, and then I did the business with Willie D. We're like counting all the money in cash in the back of that Middle East
Oh
green
yeah,
room. It was
gotta
like
love it, bro.
it was a lot of money.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
was
yeah.
all and they only take
Everything had to be
cash.
cash. Yeah.
So we were counting it in the bathroom of the Middle East green room. I don't know if you've ever been in that thing, but I did a lot of business deals in the Middle East, good and bad in the Middle
Right.
East,
I'm sure.
Middle
I'm
East
sure
green
there's
room bathroom.
quite a few memories for you back then. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Scarface, you remember Scarface brought out the guitar for the first time and did Pink Floyd
Yeah.
Wish You Were Here. He does that now
Yeah.
as his bit now, but at the time when him
That
doing
was the
that,
first time.
yeah, first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So yeah, great memories. I didn't know that, and I'm sure I've seen you with at some terminology shows in Boston. I would
Oh
imagine,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
I mean, we have all the same circles for
You
sure.
probably were in the terminology, the classic terminology plus 10 guest list
You know
slot.
what's
That was
funny is at that point I wasn't. So
wow.
like, so it's funny because like I would, dude, I couldn't even start to count how many shows I've done with Term back in the day before I moved out here.
Right.
And just like I would be the house DJ for the night normally. You know what I mean? Like it would be like he would headline somewhere, I would be DJing, then Deadeye would come on, we do the switch over. Me and Deadeye, we would recognize each other, we got close, whatever. But like I would try to like hand term a beat CD or like a thumb drive or a car. Like I would like try different things, different approaches to like get beats to him. And like, he's on stage with like, 10 goons, whatever. And he's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And it's at the end of the night or whatever. And then, and he knows all this. We've talked about it many times. But then
Yeah.
when I moved to New York, Static takes me under his wing and everything. Now me and him are like,
Yeah.
we're like the closest of friends now.
Yeah.
We're family.
Yeah, I want to get into that for sure, but I want to go back a little bit because on your bio
Bet.
it says Maine raised, Brooklyn based, but yet you have a New Hampshire number. So I'm a little confused.
Yeah, a little bit all over the
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Okay.
Where are we at here? Where are we at?
I know. I kind of chuckled too when I gave you my number. I was like, oh yeah, he's actually gonna know what I mean when I do a 603. Out here, everyone's like, what?
Yeah,
603.
yeah,
So
oh yeah,
I grew up in Kittery, Maine.
oh yeah.
So it's
Outlets.
like, yeah, right by the outlet. So I grew up like, I don't know if you know where like Warren's, that lobster house. So you go into Maine and there's like a giant billboard with a huge light up lobster. I grew up about a block away from that. So I could walk like downtown Portsmouth in like 10
Yep.
minutes from where I grew up. So like growing up, I felt like, all right, cool. Yeah, I grew up in Maine, but like there's not really anything in Kittery. So I kind of felt more like I was from Portsmouth, if that makes
Yep.
sense.
Absolutely.
Um, because like, yeah, every job I had growing up, it was in Portsmouth. Everything that you had to do was in Portsmouth. Now Kittery is like super dope. The whole area is like completely different. But
Yeah, Portsmouth is dope too.
Portsmouth is super dope.
Yeah.
Growing up, there's a lot of dope.
If I was back in New Hampshire, I
Yeah.
probably would want to live in Portsmouth, ideally, if I
Oh
could
yeah,
afford
for
it.
sure.
If
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could
Well, that's
afford
the
it.
big thing too. Now it's the same prices as Brooklyn in Portsmouth. It's
Wow,
nuts. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
even more.
People, dude. I don't know a soul that I grew up with that actually can live like where they grew up. It's like the same thing that's happening in New York.
Boston
Yeah,
too. Boston
it's
too.
everywhere. So yeah, that's kind of how it came. Like, I moved when I moved out of my parents' house, they were like they had moved to York, Maine, and then I moved to Dover because that was kind of like the thing. Like, you grew up there,
UNH.
yeah, and then you work in kitchens, but you live in like Dover, Somersworth. You take the bus in or you drive in. Like that was kind of just the way it was. So, living in Dover, then started doing music there. Then I went to Manchester. And from Manchester, I was there for 5 years. And then I moved directly to Brooklyn. And I've been here for, I think in May, it will be 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. I was reading one of your past interviews that you got sober at 17 years old.
Yeah, I got sober a month before I turned 18.
And it's from what I saw, it was a pretty severe circumstances that got you sober.
Yes.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, so I'm like a super open book. You like I'm
All
told
right, cool.
I like to. I always want to. It's
Yeah,
for me it's like a God-given experience that I don't think should ever be hidden from me personally because of the circumstances.
absolutely.
Um, like growing up where I grew up, I try to explain it to people here. It's like downtown Portsmouth at that time was like going to Union Square in New York City. Like it was just like hippies, goths, jocks, like everybody. There would be like 30, 40 people at all times up to fun stuff, but up to no good. You know what I mean? I'm like
Yeah.
14 years old, smoking in public, drinking beers and coffee cups to hide them from the cops. I'm getting arrested, this and that. Uh, the 17 is like the darkest year ever. It was like I went into two rehabs. I got kicked out of the first one, got kicked out slash broke out of the second one, was like on the run in Maine and New Hampshire. I was
Like
up
bottle
like,
rocket.
oh, it was nuts. I was like hitchhiking from like Bar Mills, Maine to Portsmouth, and then like I had to turn myself in, and like the good addict in me was like, oh, do a 9-month rehab and see what happens, or do a 3-month jail boot camp in Stratford County, Dover. And I was like, all right, cool. 3 months, I'll get out. I'll just BS my way through it. I'll get out. I'll go back to the streets. I'm good. Cool. So I picked
Spin
that.
dry. Spin
Yeah, a little
dry.
spin dry. Yeah, I
That's a
picked
long
that.
spin dry though. That's a longer
Right.
90 days is a longer spin dry. That's like
Yeah, yeah.
heavy
30 is like the
duty.
day.
That's like on the laundry on the dryer, like the setting. It's like normal heavy duty. Like that's
Yeah,
heavy duty
extra
spin dry.
rinse. Yeah,
It's
all of it.
heavy duty
All of
spin
it.
dry with extra rinse.
And it was the best thing. It was the best thing that ever happened to me because it was like you said, it was like a spin dry, but it wasn't like the 6-month or 9-month rehab, but it wasn't the 30 days. Like for me, I had to be removed. Um,
Yeah.
and like the counselors in there, it was like no BS. They called me out within a couple of days. You're still in jail. But you're in a big room with 10 bunk beds and 20 inmates and no privacy, everything stripped away from you. You wake up, you're in front of your bed like this, eyes front, left hand over your right, shirt has to be tucked in, everything, and your bed has to be folded a certain way by 5:35. You wake up at 5:30, in front of your bed, 5:35, then programs till 8 p.m. You're not allowed to talk from 8 till 9, and then you have to be asleep by 9. So it was like not 3 months of that. I think I waited on like in G pop for like six weeks, got into some trouble. I was a wild kid. Um, but that was like the best thing that ever happened. What led me to that was blacking out on my mother's birthday, drinking, blacking out, getting kicked out of someone's trailer in a trailer park for the second time because I was so crazy. And then I had been going through and stealing from cars and all this, breaking in cars and whatnot, teenage stuff. And that night I found keys and I had done that before, but I was so messed up that night that I took it for a spin. I was next to the outlets and I woke up about a half-hour drive into New Hampshire from the blackout. So I woke up going 100 miles an hour in and out of traffic. Went off the road, got back on the road. I crashed into a tree going about 100 miles an hour, crawled out of it while it was on fire. Reading the police report later, realizing that I believe it was like a subconscious, like attempted suicide situation. Like I finally worked up the courage because it was a straightaway. Like it was straight for a mile, and I hit the biggest tree that there was. And then, I woke up in a jail and another. It was just like institutions, and then that program that I mentioned after backtracking, that is what saved my life. going into that program, I had been introduced into AA the typical way by like rehabs and BS, just kind of seeing old people, but I had seen like a light in their eyes that I wasn't familiar with, like a happiness and a true and an honest and authenticity from these people. So I knew there was something. So I hit up the guy that I had called my sponsor, but never really used him before. And I hit the ground running. I was, I turned 18 when I was locked up. And and I just hit the ground running. I was going to meetings twice a day, every day, 3 times a day sometimes, and all this. Um, hold up, I'll be right back.
Pause it.
Andy.
We're
Okay.
back.
All right. So yeah, I had hit the ground running. I was going to meetings all the time. I just like really started my life back. I used to go speak at, high schools, colleges, all this, was sponsoring people in the program, and really just like took that and went full force. And I wasn't even doing any music at the time. I really just focused on myself for the next like 2, maybe 3 years. And it was just, it was a big life-changing thing. Like even 6 months after I'd gotten out of that facility, I had, a whole case. That was in New Hampshire, and I had a whole 3 cases running concurrent in one day from Maine. And by the grace of God and like things I can't even explain is why I got the word God tattooed on my arm to show me God's permanent, a tattoo is permanent. Let's keep it simple. That's it. Just to remind me, no matter what, there's something up there looking for me.
No, you're lucky to be alive.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. That's just one of the major car accidents. I was in a few. There was other.
I don't
A
know
whole
how you
bunch of other
survived.
stuff.
Did you not have any injuries or anything from that?
Barely anything. I lived for like 3 days.
You went 100 miles into a tree. No
The
injured. Car caught on fire. No injuries at
the
all.
the car. I was almost like I saw the smoke and the fire starting to happen. I was like little blips of it. And
Yeah.
I just remember how much the car went into me, like collapsing. Yes.
Oh, we got a visitor. Look who it
What's
is.
up?
Icy.
An icy?
Yeah, icy.
Okay. All right. Real quick. My
No
bad,
problem.
bro.
Yeah, that's a miracle that you are not paralyzed or dead
Yeah.
after that
Yeah,
car accident.
it's wild. I mean, what they said was that like being drunk, I mean, being drunk is what did it, obviously, but also being drunk is what saved my life because my body was more relaxed. I didn't really get as much of the whiplash. When you're that, and they'll say like if people, people get car accidents if they're drunk, they're more likely to be okay because they're just like they just go with it. Their body
Just
becomes
for the
part
record,
of
we
it.
are not promoting drunk driving in any way
No,
here.
I don't even know.
Let's go on the record and say that you will not.
No.
You have a better chance of not getting in an accident sober than surviving one drunk. So let's just say that.
Very true. Nah, dude, I'm like an old man. I'm like, you had 1 beer. Well, what percentage was that? You shouldn't drink. You don't even know. You think you're okay. I'm that guy.
You're that guy. So
Yeah.
you're the buzzkill. You're the
Yeah,
buzzkill at the party.
exactly.
Well, that's a miracle. I'm glad you were able to embrace the program and help other people and really.
Yeah.
And how long ago was that now since you got sober?
Over 15 years.
Wow. So me and you have around the same amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 15 in April.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. So going to the music, were you into music before this, or did it happen afterwards?
It was a weird thing. It was like like I discovered the music stuff. I was younger. I was like dating some chick. Like I was like 15, and her cousin, funny enough, her cousin got out of prison and was on parole, and he was staying with her. And he had turntables there, and I was just like I was like, yo, what's going on there? So I started talking to him about it, and like he had tons of records and all this. I remember seeing like an Insight record, Mr. Live, Acrobat Records, like he had a bunch of stuff. And he was like, yo, you can play with it, but you got to buy a needle. So I bought a needle, and I would just like go in the room and just spin all the time. And so it started there. Then I got like a set of turntables, like some no brand name belt drive turntables, but like it started it. Like I had a mixer, but then like that was like 15. So by the time like 16 happened, that's like when things were like bad. You know what I mean? Like real bad. So like all that went out the window, forgot everything about it. 16, there was another really major bad situation that I went through, and like things went very dark after that. It was another major car accident, which I should not have survived either. Um, so then coming back to music was later on. It was like maybe like a year after I got sober. You know what I mean? And I like got a pair of tags. I started doing little things, and then I met this dude Def Rock from the Seacoast area. He invited me to his studio, and that's when I got introduced to MPC. And like he had everything. He had a 3000, two 4000s, all the old like Moogs and crazy stuff. This place was set up like a dojo, all the rack mounts, and he was just like, "This is how you make beats." And he showed me how you could chop up a sample and manipulate it, and it was just mind blowing. And I was like, I want to do that. So like I love DJing. Started. I wanted to be a scratch nerd DJ. Like I just wanted to go just scratch and beat juggle and stuff like that. But then, when I started rocking parties, it kind of shifted. And then when I found the NPC, I was like, oh, this is it. But I didn't have a lot of people to kind of show me, you know what I mean? Like I didn't have there wasn't a lot of people in my circle. I didn't know a lot of people. So it took a little
New
while.
Hampshire's tough. New
Yeah,
Hampshire's
it's
tough, man.
tough. So I was like, and to learn an NPC, and everyone's on Fruity Loops and this and that. And I'm just like, so it was a lot of self learning and trial and error for a while.
Yep. So you're making beats. So you're basically DJing, and you're like kind of concurrent with the DJing and the beat making, really, right? Like so, like they both kind of came at the same time, right?
Yeah, just about the same time. And for a while, it was like, I don't DJ out here as much. When I was back home, I'd be doing a hookah lounge and a rap show and then this and that. And like, I was DJing every weekend. And then when I went full time later on, DJing 4 to 7 times a week here. And then when moving to New York, it was a little harder to get those. You know what I mean? I thought that was going to be the bread and butter right away. DJ, get into the clubs easy, blah blah blah. But really, producing kind of took off easier that way in the city. Whereas
In
like
New
back
York.
home, yeah.
When did you move to New York? What year?
What year was it? I want to say so it was about 8 years. I want to say it was like 2017.
Okay.
Right, that makes sense.
So by
Yeah.
2017, are you like producing for other artists at this point? Like where are you? Are you still learning?
So yeah, by that time, like I said, I was under a different name. I had done like I had the last thing that I did in New Hampshire actually was with Bug Out from New Hampshire. And we had a little
Granite
EP
State?
called Granite State, and that was like looking at that time, I was like, oh, that's the OGs. And that was the last thing I did. There was this other kid, DK, really
Yep.
good dude, that me and him did 2 projects with. I think the first project I ever did with one artist was with him. And then I had done a compilation. At that time, I was like, I would have a local guy, then I'd like buy a feature. And just like kind of putting it together, that was like, hey guys, take me seriously, like on the local level type of situation.
Right. Yep.
But I learned a lot from that. So it was, I would say it was a little mix of both, the DJing and the producing before I moved out here, but it was starting to go more towards the producing.
Right. Um, so you basically when you were in New Hampshire, you were just basically producing for local artists.
Yeah, it was just strictly local artists. I had no foot in the door industry wise or anything like that. I was like kind of hitting my head like with the internet thing. I was like, I don't understand how people do this internet thing and just make it happen. I was like, I felt like a need, like I always felt a need to go there to like find people, to hang out with people, to be face to face, to really feed off of that energy.
Well, going back to the point, I mean, you got lucky with Def Rock, right? Is that what you're saying? Def Rock?
Yeah, yeah.
Finding someone like that you could learn under in New Hampshire and had all that equipment, it's a
Hmm.
rare thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah, for sure.
it goes back to the point I always make is like surrounding yourselves with people that make you sharper.
Hmm.
Um, in literally being in the physical presence of somebody to learn and
Huge.
that person making you better. That's huge. And I left New Hampshire because of that, because there
Yeah,
wasn't any of that.
right.
You luckily had, when I left, it was 2001.
Yeah,
So there was no New Hampshire hip hop scene at that. I
no,
mean, if there
yeah,
was, there wasn't any shows.
yeah.
I DJ'd first, and I was in
Hmm.
the clubs doing like Charlie Peppers and friggin' Chantilly's and you
Oh
know
yeah,
playing the hits. Playing Juvenile Back That Ass Up. They didn't want to hear new Mr. Liff and Seven Else Esoteric, but
nah.
so that's why I left.
Hmm.
I went to Boston, went to school, and it
Yeah.
seems like you decided to go to New York, and
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was like, I don't know if it was like, oh, I want to skip. Like I like knew at one point it was gonna be there, so it was like I think maybe in my head it was like, all right, Boston, then New York, and then like I waited a while, then I was like, all right, let's just go to New York. But even when I used to be a cook for a long time, and I always thought, oh, New York is the place to open up a restaurant and cook and to make it big out there. And then with music, it was the same thing. And you talked about
gee,
like,
I don't mean to stop you, but a cook with a drug problem, I've never heard that one before.
oh yeah, no, definitely not.
I've worked in a few restaurants, and all the cooks are crazy. So
Yeah, that
you
was
guys go
another
hard.
reason why
You
I
guys
had to
go
get
hard.
out.
Yeah, yeah, you guys go hard. But so did you go to Brooklyn? Did you already know Static and Term at that time?
No, I
So you
was
just
not
flew
connected,
blinded? You flew
dude.
blinded?
It was nuts. It was like I had to hit up Static like on a Twitter DM. I think it was like right before I moved, or maybe right after or during it or something. But it might have been during. But I was just like, I asked him for advice. Like, hey, you kind of did a similar thing. Like what I was looking for like a grandiose, like, this is your strategic game plan, and this is exactly what I did. And he was like, go to a bunch of shows, people always need beats, or something like that. Like something very just to the point, simple. And I was like, ugh. But I got there and I kind of used that as like a motivation. And I literally was Googling hip hop shows tonight near me and stuff like that. And it's like the wackest stuff ever, because that's like the places that have tickets. And like in New York, it's like the places you want to go to, the poster got like put up 5 hours before the event. That's the only way you know about it, or a homie told you. So I was doing that and like putting it on my story. And then I think like Static started seeing that. And it was like kind of very chess moves, like with the album. And then I would hit him up, ask him, and he would tell me, hey, follow this page for events, or hey, there's an event tonight. And then eventually he would be like, hey, I'm going to one. And he like put me on the list. I think it was like a Pro Era event or something, I want to say. And that was a shift, you know what I mean? And then I went to a studio with Chatham the Sun, he's an artist from New Hampshire. Then I went with him, and then he eventually we find out, you know what I mean, like we have mutual friends, like with Bug Out and Ape the Gram and everything. So there was that. I definitely told him like, hey, because in my mind, I'm like, oh, the last person I worked with was probably one of the first people he ever worked with. You know what I mean? So it's just like this slow progression, and then all of a sudden he's like taking me under his wing, and he's just showing me all the game. I'm over at his studio every single day. I have like the worst job you could think of to start out. Like I was actually full time for a year before I moved to New York, almost as like a test. Um, and then when I moved to New York, I had like a telemarketing job that was BS, and then another restaurant job for like 2 months. But I'm like, dude, I'm doing those jobs at like 8 in the morning till like 3 or 4, and then I'm going home, changing, meeting up with him, going out to like 3, 4, 5 in the morning, then going to work and just like not sleeping, barely eating, just like grind mode. And just like him and Term, like I said, they took me under their wing. They're showing me the whole city. Um, and just like I don't know, it just felt like very traditional, felt very right. You know what I mean? It was like they were really developing me, you know what I mean, in the sense of an artist, of a producer, like how it used to be back in the day, of like just really showing me the do's and don'ts and just letting me be a fly on the wall too, and like showing me how they do stuff.
Why do you think they took to you? Because those guys don't always take to everybody.
No, they don't. I think a big thing was my work ethic. I think
Oh,
that was something. I think because it was like I said, I was make sure I was doing all this stuff, but I made sure like maybe Static would see or notice or whatever. Because it's not like I was doing it so that, but you know, not always people are gonna see your work ethic. And it was my hunger and my drive that I really had, I think.
yeah.
Static said, hey, when he heard the bug out and Neff project, he said, yo, the beats are dope, but you could improve on this. And then like he showed yeah, he's like, yo, the beats are dope, you could be better at this. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna take it. And then
Okay.
yeah,
Ooh,
okay.
ah.
It hurts, but it feels good. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so
Let's
it's
talk.
like
Yeah, let's talk about Static Selectah's production from a
mhm,
producer's standpoint, because obviously he mentored you, and you're a
mhm.
producer. He's a producer. Talk to me about his style and his importance of what he does.
I mean, a big for me, it's like I think Static. I mean, he has his style, but I think what's beautiful about what he does and has done is like bridging a really big gap. You know what I mean? Like he bridges that gap. It's not just like that he carried a torch from traditional hip hop or anything. And that's actually something that he taught me is to use the word traditional hip hop. When people were saying, "Oh, Nephew beats sound like '90s beats," and he was like, "Nah, dude, it's not. You don't always have to say boom bap or '90s beats." He's like, "We make traditional hip hop," and that just clicked with me. Um, so like a lot of those little things that he does that he incorporates, he has a big sound, he has a lot of instruments going on. So he has a way for it to have that like the boom bap and the true original sound, but then to add newer elements, working with newer artists, wanting to break newer artists when a lot of people are scared to do that type of thing. A lot of people are scared, I feel, to take risks, to go find someone. They just want to hop on what's hot right now after it becomes hot. And sometimes that's cool, but sometimes that's really hard too. So it's like
Yep.
you really got to use your DJ skills to, okay, I know something special is about to happen. This kid has
Yeah.
something special. I have the tools to be able to help him, or let me just work with him and let's see what happens. But sound wise, I feel like I said, he's so good at bridging that gap of the traditional, the older golden feel, but also adding the elements of like just a cleaner sound or more instrumentation or working with other people with real instruments to be able to do that. Not like, oh yeah, the older sound. Yes.
Here's the younger sound.
Yes, this is the younger sound. Soon to
That's
be super famous. She knows more goats than most people do. Yes, babe?
good.
Storybox.
Yes, you can. Do you know how to get there?
No.
Okay. So do you need me to go get there for you? Okay. All right. Pause.
Pause again. It's funny because when I did the interview with Static, he had his kid all over it too. So I guess you guys have a lot in common, you and Static.
We really, dude, it's like it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, like we both lived in the Bronx at a time, and yeah, there's certain similar. I'm not gonna get into all of them, but there's definitely for obvious reasons. But there's definitely some like, oh, that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's my big
Um,
bro.
Termanology, another important
Yeah,
relationship you develop with too. Obviously, Static and Term, 1982,
yeah.
worked together forever. Another incredible work ethic. Talk to me about lining with him, because you guys are working together now, correct?
Yeah. So I mean, that was another one. Like when we were talking earlier, I used to hand him, beat CDs, this and that. Like now he's Uncle Turner. Like now it's
Uncle
beyond.
Term.
Yeah, it's like or Uncle Goya sometimes. Like
Uncle Goya. I like that.
yeah, if you broke
Uncle
down
Goya.
what it
Uncle
stands for.
Goya.
Um,
Goya.
yeah. But yeah, it's just like wild how those things just kind of come to fruition. Yeah, because it's like me and Static linked up first, and then I say this in every interview, and I love talking about it. Is like the first time I sent Term beats. I sent him beats. I was like, yes. I was like waiting for the perfect moment. Emailed them to him. It was like me, Static, and then a couple other people were like hanging out at a bar, and I was like about to leave to go DJ, but they said, "Oh, Term's getting here," so I waited to say what up and goodbye. I didn't want to be rude and leave. This dude comes in, and he's like, "Yo, what's up, bro? You really thought those beats were high?" I was
Ha
like,
ha.
I was like, "Yeah, I sent him, didn't I?" I was like, why do you think I would
Yeah.
send them? I was like, of course they are. All my beats are. Like just super pompous, you know what I mean? Like you just sold some hip hop shit. And he was like, damn, he's like, bro, you wait, he's like, don't ever waste my time like that again. I was like, oh,
Oh, Jesus.
like he was so ruthless. He must have like just had a good day or so. Who knows? But anyway, like we talk about, we joke about it. We all know about it. Um, the worst part was, like I said, I had to leave. So like he said that, and I'd be like, okay, peace or whatever. I said something stupid probably, but there's certain things that like stick in your brain. So like for me, I use that as motivation. And like that was like right here every time I made a beat after that. And I was like, I just want to get better, just want to get better. And like at the time, I was like, I don't think they were that bad. I liked them. They were good. I was working with some small artists and stuff. But I was like, I gotta be amazing now. And Static giving me pointers on certain things, seeing how he would do it. Like I would be like, at first I would just kind of watch what he was doing and just like chill and just like be in the environment. And then I'd be like, so what are you doing there? And he'd explain it. I'm like, okay. And I go, okay, how can I do that but not that? Like, how can I do that but I'm not steal it? Like, I understand. All right, for this sample, he's using these plugins and doing these to treat it in this way. Okay, I should treat it, but I got to come up with a different sound. And from that, because I wasn't at that time, I wasn't like focused on putting the mix on the beat until the artist had it. So like then I started focusing on like how do I make my sound before the artist comes in, and get them there. Fast forward, Term is being like, yo, did you make this beat, Nev? I don't know if it's yours or Static's or whoever. You know what I mean? He's like, now I'm in the same folders, you know what I mean? He's like, oh shit, I thought that was so and so's. I didn't realize that was yours. Um, and like me and Term just like, we built a lot and we just really clicked. Um, I joke with him that he's like the show off HR because I come to him with stuff all the time. Like, hey, I need help with this. Hey, what do I do? He's like, oh, hold on, let me put my HR hat on.
Static swore at me. What do we
Yeah.
do about this, Term? I feel like I've been verbally harassed by Static at the studio. This is an HR issue, Term. I need you to address this.
Oh my god. So it's just
I'm
the
having
whole
trouble
thing.
staying sober. I'm having trouble staying sober around Static. What do we do?
I'm definitely not gonna hit a Term about that.
Yeah, it's true.
But
Yeah.
But yeah, it just became like the whole crew, you know what I mean? It was like we were out every night, all that stuff. At one point, Static and I had to like make a rule about like Mondays were just at home day. And then it got, right before the lockdown, um, Term brought the idea of opening up a studio to me. And I was like, oh, I never thought about it. I'm down, but I'm like hesitant. And at the time, like my girlfriend was pregnant. We didn't know there was a lockdown about to happen. And he just like he already had the plan. I was like, okay, I'm down, but I don't know if about clients. I don't have clients for a studio. I'm not that type of engineer. You know what I mean? I've been running my own sessions, and I had recording credits on all of their albums for a couple years at this point because I was doing all the recording. Fast forward, we open up the studio and we have about like 94 different folders the first year. So 94 different clients in the first year opening up the studio, and a lot of those people were repeat customers too and clients.
Nice.
So it worked out very well. And now we had a studio, Statik had his, and then we shared the same wall. So we were right next to it. So it was still on some, team crew shit, where we were able to like send artists back and forth. Everyone's constantly working, you know what I mean? It's just go, go,
Beautiful.
go. And the first placement I had with Term was on Vintage Horns, and I had 3 beats on that. And that was like a really big moment for me. And he did 3 verses on the first one, which Term doesn't always do 3 verses, so that was dope.
I want to backtrack a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about your sound and Statik sound.
Yeah.
We talked about Statik sound. How would you describe your sound, and how is it different from Statik?
So that's it's funny too, because it's like we're talking about like generations, and I feel like I'm in a micro generation, because it's like there's like the Preem, then the Statik and Term, and then there's like the younger kids, whereas like I'm in the middle of that. So I feel like people will say I have my sound, and I'm not saying that I don't. I think I definitely have a particular, when you become familiar with it, you'll hear it. But in the same sense, like I'm so influenced by a Statik and a Madlib and a Alchemist, and even Preem, of course, everybody is, and that type of stuff. So for me, it's more of like almost like a melting pot of that. You know what I mean? I have like my weird styles and this and that. Again, I think I do have my own, and it took years to get into that pocket, but I think in a beautiful way, I'm able to really take some of those people that I looked up to, and those different sounds, especially, you hang around Stag enough, you kind of have to try not to sound like them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough. I can see how that
Yeah.
would be difficult.
That was one thing that I really kept there, was like, people would be like, "Oh, that sounds like a Stag." I'm like, "Oh, it's a super compliment," but like don't want, I should be more focusing on me. It just happens naturally. It's good, that means you're in a crew.
Yeah. When did you make the transition to be a professional engineer in all this? Because that's not an easy thing just to be. I mean, you're a paid engineer now, so that you had to have some type of training to do that.
It was all an accident.
It was
all an accident. That's the crazy
like you
part.
had no formal, you didn't go to school or have any formal training to be an engineer.
Not
and
even
are you now mixing and mastering records?
Yeah. Yeah.
No one taught you anything. This is all self-taught.
So it's like,
that's a first for me, because every engineer that I've ever come to usually went to school and then an intern. Went to school, interned.
Oh yeah.
And then got, either opened up their own practice or not.
I have one of the sickest, we'll get to that. I have one of the most sought after jobs in our world, and we'll get to that. So like the engineering, it was like I looked up to certain producers and was like, oh, everyone knows they mix their stuff, Statik. Even living in New Hampshire, he mixes his stuff. Oh, you hear about like Preem and Dre and all these guys, they know how to mix their stuff. And I was like, from that standpoint, also from like kind of a budget thing too, you're like, all right, I should learn how to mix my stuff. So it was like every project I did, I would get a little better, this and that, but like they weren't up to par, and I was just faking it till I make it, I guess, in the best words. I'm just really taking little bits and pieces. The first album I did way back, I had Sir Bob Nash from Walker Sound and Lowell.
Sir, he's been knighted.
Yes. Sir Bob Nash. Yes.
Bob Nash has been knighted.
I thought about that. I was like, do not forget the sir, because he is a sir. So like the first,
knighted by Term knighted him.
He did. It's on tape. So like he mixed and mastered my first project, and I learned like just watching him. So things like that. And then like with Statik, when I met Statik, I was using Ableton, and I didn't really know Pro Tools except for like how to record button, and like that's it. And like I know like Ableton really well at that time, and then Statik's throwing me in to like record for artists I never thought I would meet in my life on a whim.
Ah,
And I'm like, oh my, and I'm like doing Ableton shortcuts in a Pro Tools session and like messing up, and like repercussions not good. You know what I mean? Just like little things. Like I'm getting by, but I'm like, okay. And I stopped using Ableton. I started learning Pro Tools, kind of researching a little bit, but then also just like asking him, and like just osmosis and learning different things. And then I still kept saying, oh, I'm gonna mix and master this project when I produce it, and oh, it's my song, I'm gonna mix it, and this and that. And then when Term and I opened the studio, I started actually like really liking it, and like really getting good. Like, all right, I got to do this fast. Okay, cool. I'm gonna mix while I'm recording you. I'm gonna mix the other vocal while you're doing this and this and that, and like learning different things and realizing I was doing a lot of stuff wrong, and then like having like, oh, okay, I'm mixing this way, and then like 3 months later, oh, I'm mixing a whole different way now. And then at some point I couldn't really pinpoint it. People, people started hitting me up for mixing, mastering, word started spreading. I became more sought after for even just recording. People just liked recording, because for me with the studio, if you're like a newer artist, you're getting the whole package. Like when and it's not even on purpose. Like I couldn't help but coach somebody. I couldn't help but kick some knowledge of what I knew. And like, so, you have these artists that are like not in the game fully, and they're coming in just to record vocals, and they're leaving with gems that I've passed down from, Statik, or all these, Term, and these people that I'm around, and experiences. And they're like, wow, I feel like I just, this dude coached me. I got better at rapping, and I just learned some stuff about, royalties or whatever it was. You know what I mean?
right, right.
Um,
So now, like, you've worked with a whole bunch of people. I mean, you've listed Little Fame, Term, Nems, Rome Streets, Razcast, Flea Lord, Dirty Sanchez, CG Fly, Nick Caution. What else do I got here? I can't. Ren Thomas, Riggs,
Rome
Wise
Streets.
P. Wise P. I already said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wise P. Tech from Smith and Wesson, Rashid Chappelle, Aaron Cohen, Mickey Fax, Statik, and you even mentioned DJ Premier. How did you work with him?
So that's what I said I was going to come back to.
I'm
So
glad we're coming back to that.
yeah. So now I'm his engineer. So I'm his main like day-to-day engineer with Preem.
Wow. So you're
Yeah.
engineering the premiere sessions?
Yeah.
How so? Like,
So
'cause
like
he
I go in,
produces.
so like I'll go in 4 days a week and be there as his engineer. So like my job there with him is to like keep him in a creative state. You know what I mean? So like
He's just focusing on making the beats.
yeah, he gets to focus on make the beats, and like when he comes into a hurdle, I can solve it for him. When sometimes it's just little stuff like, hey, we need to make sure the mic is set for Nas today, or whoever's coming. I'm just saying random people's names. Like, hey, we need to
You
do
just said
this, we need to do
Nas.
that. Or
I'm just saying, not random people's name. Nas is coming in, setting up the mic. Random.
I mean, that's crazy, bro. I literally he left the room and had to go take care of something, and I got to record Nas and be like, "Hey, can we do that take? I think you could do it better." And I was just like,
Did I just say that?
am I gonna cry? And he was like, oh, "Okay, yeah, all right, cool, yeah, you're right."
So so you're recording all these featured artists that Preem's working with.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because like Prima is a very independent, like he can do a lot of stuff. So like
Right.
there'll be a day where like I'll record it, and there'll be he loves recording too, but then there's a day that he records, or we're both doing it. He's talking, I'm pressing the buttons, he's telling me, you know what I mean, and we're just really working together as a team. He'll be like, all right, cool. We just got here. Okay, enough. I need to line up these 3 songs, and then I'm gonna go do this, and then you're gonna help me record scratches. You know what I mean? The first week I've been there, almost 2 years now. And the first week, the song, Easy with the game and Kanye. That was like a little while ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the first week I was there, I recorded the scratches for that. I had like gone home, was done for the day, and he calls me and was like, "Yo, where are you?" I was like, "I just got home." He's like, "Ah, man." I was like, "What's up? Talk to me." He's like, "Well, I need to record some scratches." I'm like, "Okay, you want me to come in?" He's like, "Well, it is for Kanye." I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you mind?" He's one of the
Do you
nicest humans.
mind?
He's one of the nicest. I mean, he's from Texas, so he's one of the nicest humans ever. Um,
Some
and I
people
was
might
like,
disagree with that with Texas.
well, I mean, the Southern hospitality. My family's from the South. I'm sure you're right about that with certain
I was just
points.
saying, I know Texas is a big place. Let's just say
Yeah,
that. It's a
Texas
very
is a
big
big
place.
place, but I look
Big
like
place. Big
Southern
place.
politeness is a whole different level in my.
No, I
And
got
you
some
know,
family in Alabama. I understand
all my
Southern.
family is from Louisiana and stuff, but I grew up here. And I was like, Kanye, bro, yeah, dude, I'm leaving right now. And then like I'm getting my bag ready, and I look, and like the FaceTime he just had with Ye, it was like Ye, the game, and Pusha T was already viral within 5 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go do this. So it was like that was the first impression. So I mean, it's been super dope. I've been doing the engineer thing.
That's
Um,
crazy to me how quickly you picked it up and how good you got in a short period of time.
I guess I had
I
to
mean,
do
you were kind of
what I
thrown
had
into
to
the
do.
fire, though. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
like you were just like willing to, work with Static and learn that way and do that, and then
Yeah.
you really taught yourself a lot to the point where you're now working with Premiere, doing some big stuff. I mean, again, for someone who hasn't gone to school,
Mm.
that's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Pretty
Thank you.
impressive.
Oh, I think being
Salute to
like you
you.
said.
Salute to you. Salute to Neff on that one.
Thank
Like, I
you.
was there right there, man. Fucking like
Yeah.
Kittery, Maine, Portsmouth,
Yeah.
New Hampshire, Manch Vegas,
That's
DJ Premier
dude.
Studio. Let's go.
That's the
Let's
crazy
go.
part. I forget about it because I'm in it, and then I'm like, oh, dude, I was living. What? I'm doing this. Like, because he takes me on the road. We go on the road. Now it's like I go on the road with him. I'm his like stage manager and tour manager now. So like
Oh,
when
you're
he goes to
stage
the
managing for him too.
so like when we go on the
Jesus.
road, I go with him. I'm coordinating. I'm talking with the promoters, all this kind of stuff. So it's like a little bit of both. It's like engineer, stage manage, make sure his sound is good, but then also tour managing as well too.
Yep.
Same with his band. Like the first time we went on the road, the first time we went on the road, we went to it was for the Amiri event that he did. I don't know if you saw that, but it was Fashion Week Paris, and Amiri
Yeah, I saw
uh,
that.
got him and his band and everything. Oh, we got a little buddy coming. What's up,
Oh, who we
baby?
got? Oh,
What's
she's
up?
back. She
She's
is
back.
back.
What's cracking?
I need.
What do you need?
I need a different movie.
You need a different show. Okay.
Pause again.
Okay.
No, that's crazy, man. I salute to you. I had no idea that you were doing that.
I don't really put it out there that much.
You did now.
Yeah. Yeah, now it's out here. Yeah, but it's not like I don't put it in my
Yeah,
bio. You know what I mean? Because people act weird. That's
I don't
what it
know.
comes
I
down
would
to.
put that in my bio, like engineering for DJ Premier and stage managing on your
You did
LinkedIn profile.
indeed. Now you'd be very surprised of how weird artists and stuff get when they find that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. The
Moving on.
transition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the new album,
Yeah.
Gentleman or Men's Board.
The Gentleman's Board.
Gotcha. Let's talk about
Yes.
making this one.
So for this one, well, can I break down the name real quick?
Sure, absolutely.
So the name, so with me, names are really big. Like this is my second studio album. The first one, the name was very big. And, I always a thinker. So with this one, the Gentleman's Board. So when I was coming up with things, I wanted something to do with chess, and it came down to if you the Gentleman's Board. So the only thing that could really mean would be the board, the chessboard. So growing up, me and my dad used to play chess a lot. Me and my dad were really close. He was a pretty big time artist. He was a American Impressionist, oil painter.
Yep.
And so things that he taught me that really helped me through the ages were first how to critique his art. He taught me how to, when he would come home and he would show me things to look for that were mistakes, and he would actually listen to my critiques after he taught me how to critique him with his paintings every day. But a big thing was chess. He was really good at chess, and he tried to make me, you know, good, better. He taught it, and it was always like trying to beat him, and I never could. But what it allowed me to do was it allowed me to like get outside of myself and like take a step back and like look at the big picture, look at what my next move was, take a breath, really kind of think about, okay, this one, all right, let's a pawn move. How can the pawn move help like another move that's going to be like 7 from now? You know what I mean? So that really helped, you know, with just with music, with regular life, stuff like that. So that's really how the name came about. Now the question you asked, how did it start? How like I start working on it?
Yeah, it was inspiration behind this one and
Yeah.
the process. Creative
So it was
process.
like, yeah, so the process for this one, really there was a little bit of the same process as the first one, but this one was really wanting to allow the project make itself, if that makes sense. So it was like
Totally.
when it's funny because it's like you would think that like with the producer album, I know some people don't like saying that, but with the producer album that you do all the producing, you'd be super in control and this and that. And I do. I will not say I'm a beat maker. I'm a true producer. Um, and with this one, what I wanted was I wanted the songs to feel like they were those people's songs. Like I didn't want to just make a bunch of neff joints that had featured artists. I wanted these songs to really represent and feel like they were still in the style of that artist and to bring them together, but still find a way to make it cohesive in my sense. If that, you know what I mean? So
No,
it's
I get
like,
it.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
was just to say, you know, like when you're doing a compilation, and I do compilations too. I don't make the beats, but I work with other producers. I executive produce and put the whole thing together. Um, it's technically a compilation in that form, but that word
Mhm.
is kind of not a great word in today's time. So it's just kind of like an album. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you know, I get it. Like you start, it's hard not to just kind of go. It's hard kind of not to go where the music takes you on it, right? Because like
right.
even if you got a beat, like and then you bringing in other rappers, right? So it's
Mhm.
like they kind of set the concept a lot of times, and you kind of feed off of that. You know what I mean?
Oh
For
yeah,
me, nowadays I'm trying to kind of come up with the concepts. You know what I mean? Like the song concepts instead of just like here's the beat, rap over it. You know what I mean? So
right.
that's kind of a tricky balance between the two because at the same time you don't want to get in the way of the rapper and what they're thinking for the beat as well. You know?
Yeah, yeah, that was definitely a big thing. It was like I don't want to get in the way, and some people would say like, "Hey, do you have a concept for this?" And I would be like, "All right, this is like a tentative, but I don't want to restrict you because I
Yeah.
want you." And I would say this to artists: "I want you to feel like you're making your own song."
Right.
But at the end of the day, it gets to be mine. You know what I mean?
Right.
Selfishly, that's kind of what it comes down to. Like,
Because
I
that's
want
going
you
to
to
get
feel
you the best. That's going to get you probably the best product, right? Like for the most
that's what I
part.
want, you know, and that's what it really comes down to is I wanted it to be the best. I didn't want it to sound like a feature. I didn't want it to sound like they went in, they did their job. I wanted it to sound like they picked one of my beats to rap
Right.
on for their project. But then
Right.
again, too, it's like I don't really like to throw away songs like, oh, this one didn't make the cut, but with this one I did, and there was a couple. I mean, some of like there was some 808 stuff going on because I do have some joints like that. Whereas I wanted those to be there, but then once the rest of the project came along, I was like, oh, I feel like there's more cohesiveness happening. Though that all right, that one's a little too aggressive. Okay, I don't want that style of singing on here. So let's kind of just move in this direction. So yeah, it was really I wanted everything to be very organic. But then hey, once I get your vocals, now I can do my true producing, sequencing, changing things. You know what I mean?
It sounds like you got some extra joints for the deluxe version.
I thought about it. But I got a couple of, I mean, there's a couple other projects working on
I'm
right
sure
now.
you do.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you do. I
I
want to talk
just-
about the one. I want to talk about the joint you did with Jared Evan because I love that joint.
Thank you. That's
And
special
that
for me.
wasn't. And that wasn't, you know, that was more of a singing track than a rap track. Well, who raps on it? Someone raps
Ren
on it.
Thomas.
Ren Thomas.
Yeah.
So, but Jared is the most of the song, right? Like he does the chorus.
Yeah, because he does. Yeah, he does
verse.
the chorus and the verse. Yeah.
Yeah, which is straight singing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not always easy to engineer and whatnot. And that's a whole nother skill set than just recording someone rapping. Talk about making that song because that's a great track.
Well, thank you for that. And that one is like I've been calling it. Oh, it's like my pop record, but it's like that's a special song. I've had a lot of belief in it. You know, I'm gonna do some content for it down the road, but again, it has to be special. It has to be the vision. That one was funny because with both artists, something happened. I had done a beat for Jared for something he was working on. It had him and rapper Big Pooh. I was super pumped about that. So then it was, time to get on mine. And I wasn't rushing on my project, but I'll be like, hey, how's that coming? Like he had picked the beat, hey, how's that coming? Or he would hit me up out of the blue, hey buddy, I got you this week. And it was just kind of, you know how it goes. It was just kind of a lot of that.
Give it the nudge. You doing the nudge. Hey, remember me?
Reminder.
Hey, you got that verse?
Yeah, you got that.
Hey, don't forget about me.
And then
Jared's good at that
happened.
too. Don't let him sleep. He's good on that too. He'll keep nudging you if he needs something. Trust
Oh
me.
yeah, and his the whole time his communication was great. It was super dope working for him. We clicked really well because we'll talk about other stuff, get excited about it, whatnot. But I forget if he said send another beat or if I said, hey, you know what? Let me just send some other beats. And I sent him a small batch of beats because I have so many beats just sitting there, but I had like a little folder that was like all these could fit the sound. After a quarter halfway through, I was like, all these can fit the sound. And dude, he sent it back like later that day or the next day. He was like blown away. He was like, oh my God. He's like, I was in a writer's block. He was just like, dude, this just brought something out. He's like, the delivery guy just showed up. I was playing the reference. He was dancing in the hallway. He's like, dude, I don't know what it was. And then all of a sudden, I'm hype about that. And I sent it to Ren, and the same thing had been happening with Ren. Nothing was hitting. Nothing was hitting. I was sending him ill features to hop on, open verse, whatever. And I sent him that with Jared, and he lost his mind.
Oh.
And so it was that really helped make it feel special. But then the song came along. There was a bunch of post-production and stuff.
Yeah. I've done a song with Jared and I've done a song with Ren Thomas, both great artists. Both
super talented guys and really good dudes.
Well, the album's out now and you got a good response on it from what you told me in the beginning. So that's great to hear.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to pull that off. It's that whole process, especially when you're a producer and you got to, rally all the rappers. It's not as easy as it looks. I'll tell you.
No, it's not.
It's not.
The
coordination of it all is probably the toughest part.
That's the biggest thing. It's like the waiting on the verses and stuff like that. The first one I did like this, I almost called it quits like halfway through. And it was just ridiculous. Oh my God. But then Term and I opened up the studio and it became easier. Honestly, that was a big thing. But like with this project, like I focused so much especially because the name of the album, so much on little details. And it was like little details and aesthetics. Like this really made me work on the aesthetics and working on visions. Like I was so much more hands-on with the graphic designer. Shout out to Solo, aka Parkview Projects, and shout out to Derek, my photographer, because they really I was so particular about what I wanted with them, and they just kept acing it. You know what I mean? I would be like, just nudge a little bit. Okay, can we try this? Don't be mad at me, but I would like to do this, and blah blah blah. And it's just a lot of that.
At least you're nice about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the aesthetic, because you kind of got this whole like, you know, pipe, beard, tweed coat going. Let's talk about what you got. What
That
the
cabinet
image.
is full of pipes. There's like
Yeah.
50 pipes and tobacco in
Yeah,
there.
so okay, let's talk about the pipe thing first, because this is the first time I've seen the corn, whatever. Talk to me about what pipe it is. I don't say the wrong pipe, but you're the first person to really kind of bring the pipe into hip hop right now.
I know. I have it's so I've gotten Brady Watt to start smoking pipe tobacco and El Gant to start smoking pipe tobacco.
Yeah. Like,
So
talk to me about why you love smoking a pipe, I guess, because this is a first.
I
It's not
forget
weed.
how.
Let's
No,
let's
it's not
talk
weed.
about
It's not weed.
no.
So it was a time where I quit smoking cigarettes like way back. And I was just trying everything besides cigarettes. I ended up landing on vaping. I still vape. But I was like trying dip, I was trying cigars, this and that, and then I tried a pipe and I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. Why don't people do this? Why is this such a weird thing? And then I just kind of did it off and on for a few years. And I think since becoming a dad and just it's like becoming a dad and then becoming like busy in a good way with music, like music picked up and then dad life picked up, and I was like, I subconsciously needed hobby. I needed something. So I got back to my roots of certain things. Like I started getting back in touch with nature and go like I do like solo backpacking trips and like I rough it. Like I'm a survivalist. I know a lot about nature. And then the pipes and like now I know how to like restore antique pipes and have machinery and collect them and can talk about it all day long. Um, but it's like there's a couple of things that happen. Like it's like watches, my rings, the derby caps and fedoras, and then the pipes. It's like over time, I started just like putting those in, and then they became a staple, and then a brand that I like by accident became a whole brand. So like photo shoots, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, where's the pipe? Oh, do you have your watch? Where's that one? Where's the blue ring I always see?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, I did this to myself, didn't I?" So yeah, it was like the whole aesthetics of that. So with the vintage feel and everything, that's like where the photography, the outfits, all that came into play, and really just honing in on that. Because, like you say, you don't really see that too much in hip hop.
No. The illest scene in the movie I've ever seen a pipe used in the movies in Glorious Bastards. Remember?
Oh yeah,
In the beginning, he lights his pipe, trying to figure out where the Jews were underneath the boards, and he's like smoking the pipe.
Yeah. Oh, in the farmhouse. Yep.
Yeah, he's like, so where'd you hide the Jews?
Mhm.
It's a negative character, but the
It
way
is, but it's
he really made
rememberable.
smoking a pipe look cool. And that even though he was a Nazi, I'm not trying to say anything
Yeah, I
controversial
get what
here,
you're
but
saying though.
but the
Yeah.
way they captured that detail of him packing the pipe and everything, I was like,
Mhm.
wow, that actually makes me want to smoke a pipe.
It's a whole process. So it's like one of the times where like when I need to
Smells
think.
great too. Pipes
Oh yeah.
smell great. Pipe tobacco is like, oh,
Oh,
I
it
love the
smells
smell of
good.
that.
It's relaxing too. It's like at the like my days like tonight, like I might go out and just like sit on the stoop and just like no phone, just
Yeah.
like be in a meditative space and just
Very,
have that and just be an old man for a little while.
very, very recovery of you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this beard, because you got the whole Maine beard thing going. I'll tell you that much. You brought that with you too. I see. Yeah. Because if anyone hasn't been to Maine, I'm going to tell you that beard fits right in, right there. The only thing he's
Yeah.
missing is he's missing the flannel.
Which I was wearing earlier today.
Yeah, and shorts in the winter, long shorts in the winter.
That's
So
a Static thing for sure. Static, you can see him in the shorts anytime.
So he was close to Maine. That's
Yeah,
why he
yeah,
probably
yeah,
picked it
yeah,
up. You know, Exeter was
yeah.
close to Maine. That was always the
Facts.
thing when I went to Maine. It was like, I'm not saying your beard's poorly maintained. Yours seems pretty good, but I always be like, poorly maintained beards, flannel, and shorts any time of the year.
Oh
That's
yeah.
Maine.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And a lot of this too was like I think naturally, you know, I think you gain certain confidence with like getting more success, and then when you're a dad, you get a different kind. And it was like, you know, my mom brought me to antique shops and like garage sales. We always liked older stuff. Like my parents never bought anything new. Like they always bought antiques.
So you
So
like
it was
vintage. You like
yeah, vintage stuff.
stuff.
It was always around me. So
Antiques. Yeah.
I think like there was just a time where it was like that true, they talk about it all the time. Be yourself. But it was like a whole new level of like truly embracing yourself and the quirks of it, you know?
And where we're from, there's a lot of antique stores.
Oh my
You know?
God. Yeah,
Every other
bro.
block. And really what it is just people hoarding a bunch of shit, but they call it antique store. I was like,
Oh
this is
yeah.
fucking hoarding. There's a couple
No, it's
places where I'm living where
nuts.
the stuff is like bulging out of the house.
And that's like the
It's
real antique shops. In New York, you might see
yeah.
one, maybe, but
They
mostly
can't
it's like,
afford the rent. They can't afford that. Now, there's room in New Hampshire to store all the
yeah, you
crap.
can do it. There, they have to charge like $1,000 for a
Yeah.
table because they refurnish, and it's like, no, 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 this is not an antique shop. This is a fine things shop.
My buddy buys and sells vintage clothing, and
Mm,
that's like his whole
I
thing. He does
honestly
well with
fucking
it.
could. I could.
Yeah. Um, so the other question I have, how annoying is it
Oh gosh.
to compete your name with Neff the Pharaoh?
Oh my God, that's amazing. No one's ever said it, and I've always like it's been there a little bit.
How annoying is that?
It's so funny because like I couldn't like I don't really know much about him or like could really speak upon him that much, but I see his name all the time, mostly
Well,
when I'm doing the back end of stuff. Like
yeah.
if I'm on like Sound Exchange looking for money, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. And you're just like, oh man. And to be honest, and like at a point in the beginning, it was like that would his name would always just come up first. And now it's like kind of lower on the you know what I mean? I come up first when you search Neff and it's like, yes, finally. But yeah,
Because
that
that
is
happened to me. That happened to me when I was trying to get more information on you. I kept there
oh,
was a
did it
lot of
really?
yeah on Google. So you were battling Neff the Pharaoh. So it was it's tough.
Well,
It
also
was
I'm
a little
looking
tough.
on like stuff that I've searched, so it's like my own
Yeah,
made algorithm
yeah,
too.
yeah. Google's a little trickier.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, this is yeah. Well, this has been great. Is it, we're about to wrap up. Is there anything else you want to plug or talk about or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, just like right now, just really pushing the vinyl and cassettes. This was the first time I did cassettes. I was really excited about that. I
Yeah.
haven't done vinyl in a few projects, so was really excited about that. Shout out to Tape Kings. So they
So
picked that
Tape
up.
Kings made the tape for you?
Tape Kings did the tape and the
The
vinyl.
like the legendary Tape Kings
Yes.
from
Yeah.
wow, they're
And
still around, huh?
shout out to UFO Thief. He linked me up. He
They're still around. That's
he
great.
works with them. I was asking who he was working with, how he liked them. He told me, and I reached out to them. They were super cool off the rip. Right now they're based in the UK, and it
Oh,
is very cool to be a part of that. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
cool to have
that's
that.
legacy right there. That's
Yeah.
legacy.
Because so yeah, shout out to them over at Tape Kings, and yeah, go get the album. Um, I think
Oh, one
that's
last thing I
yeah.
was gonna ask you. Are you selling beats?
Yeah, I do sell beats. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so hit you up for beats too.
Yeah, for sure. And I do it a little different. I try to like because of we're talking about that micro genre. So
Yeah.
I balance both worlds. Like I got a BeatStars, where people can lease beats and whatever. Like once those beats are there, they live in that world.
Right.
But then, because I work with a lot of artists that don't really do that, you know what I mean? Because I'm
Yeah,
working
yeah.
with industry dudes and dudes in the underground and stuff. So like right now, I probably have 700 beats in a Dropbox that are available, ready to go, that will never see the BeatStars side. You know what I mean? So it's like
So
I do
so
both. It's like industry and then the
yeah, yeah.
BeatStars stuff.
So if someone hits you up and they need beats, you send them 700 beats.
It depends. It normally I've done
let me
it
know.
because they're like, yo, what's up,
And then
man? I want
easy
my
money's gonna come
exclusive.
back. Easy money will come back and be like, yo, I ain't feeling any of these beats.
Bro.
You're stepping shit up, bro. What the fuck's wrong with you, man?
I love Easy. I
Give me
love
something that's
Easy.
good.
I love it because I can see the whole thing like right now.
Right?
Yeah, so it's like I try to do a little bit of both because there's artists that really want to work with you. They're like, yo, I don't have an exclusive budget, but I do want to work with you. and this and that. And it's like, all right, cool, I do, but I also know my self-worth. You know what I mean? So it's like I can't per se like go fully on your budget, but I can steer you in the right direction to do something like that. I'm always taking mixing and I always have mixing and mastering stuff locked up. You know what I mean? There's always, I guess, a line, but I'm always taking in more people. Because my thing is like, yeah, quantity, quality, whatever. The thing is, let's make awesome music. Let's make more music, and if something hits, it hits. You know what I mean? So if it makes sense and you're a dope artist, I'm not gonna be weird. You know what I mean?
Right. That's dope, man. And congrats to you on all your success, man. The journey's crazy.
Thank
Man.
you.
The journey's
Thank you.
crazy, man. And congrats on the new album. And I'm sure you're gonna have we'll see a
Appreciate
lot more
that.
in the works.
Yes, yeah. Should see 2 other albums drop this year. Let's say that right now.
There we go.
Yeah,
I'd like
yeah.
to thank everybody for tuning in to the Leeds Edutainment Podcast with very special guest, DJ, producer, engineer, Neff. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It was a pleasure. It was really dope to be on here, man. Thank you.
Cool. We'll talk soon.
All right, cool. Peace.